Hey there, folks. CFL Jim here. It's been a little over a week since the CFL and the higher ups announced sweeping changes coming across the league in 2026 and 2027. When I heard the news, I immediately was sent into a fit of depression. I was binge eating, I was crying, didn't know what to do with myself. Then I thought, why don't I take a look, take a step back, analyze, adapt, and actually come up with an opinion on the CFL rule changes. That's what I did. For me, for you, for the game we all love, that is the Canadian Football League. These are the final thoughts anyone should ever have on the CFL rule changes. So let's start by explaining exactly what changes are supposedly coming for the Canadian Football League. I feel like you can split them up into two distinct categories: 2026 and 2027, obviously, but also you could argue, if you're being good faith, minor and major changes, or physical and spiritual changes, so to speak. So I'll just go chronologically. In 2026, the upcoming season of the CFL, we will see a change to the Rouge, benches in the East, and the play clock. Those are the three things coming next season. So the Rouge will no longer include missed field goals if they go out of the back of the end zone or on the side. It also no longer will include kickoffs or punts that go through the back of the end zone. The Rouge will now only include kicks or punts that, if they land in the end zone and the returner, they are returnable. Like the returner takes a knee, or they just let the ball stay. I guess you would never let the ball stay now because the other team could just run and maybe get a touchdown off of it. But that is the only way you can get a Rouge. So we will drastically cut back on the number of Rouges in the CFL. I know some people aren't a fan of the missed field goal. You get a point. I understand both sides of it. I'm okay with the change if you were forcing me to accept changes. Like if I have to give and take here, I will be okay with this versus some of the other proposed changes. But I don't like it. I do not like it. The fact that for the benches, the fact that some teams have both teams on the same sideline during games is just ludicrous. That should have already been changed. I'm glad that's a change that's coming. That's just easy, simple, done with it. And then the play clock adjustment, going to a 35-second play clock that automatically starts the second a play is blown dead. This will probably make games go a little bit quicker. I do wonder if I don't mind the rule in spirit. I do think it'll probably need some tweaking when you get to like the 3 minute mark. Um, Maybe post 3 minute rule, you just go back to the rules as they stand now, to encourage comebacks and encourage the crazy endings and late game scenarios that the CFL has been known for a while now, and seemingly more and more. Like it seems every year we get more and more games that come down to the wire, that come down to these crazy finishes. But I'm okay. I'm always okay with improving pace of play in football. I love it when I look down at the UFL. I like anything that makes the games go a little bit quicker. I just think maybe some tweaking in this one, and I would be okay with it. Moving over to 2027, we get into some rules and changes that I am really not a big fan of. I would call these physical changes to the game, warping the way that you watch the CFL. Namely, the goalposts moving to the back of the end zone's being shortened by about 5 yards. So they're going down from 20 yards to 15 yards for the end zone size, the length. and the goalpost moving to the back of the end zone. Now, personally, I feel like the goalpost in the front of the end zone, it makes for very intriguing ways of how to use your kicker. It makes for a much broader scope of the field where you would be comfortable kicking rather than punting. And I do think it's just a fun, unique look for the CFL. Visually, especially on TV, visually, it is something distinct. It is something that makes the CFL so unique and so special that I feel like I would hate to see that go. I do not want to see the end zones move. And the goalposts. The end zones, 20, 15 yards. The big end zones is an awesome part of the CFL. I still feel like 15 yards is big. But I just personally don't care for it. And then the field being shortened from 110 yards to just 100. The width remains, which is nice, but I don't love the shortening of the field, especially with how fast the CFL likes to go, with how many players you have on the field, with how much motion you have going on. And I get it. It probably goes hand in hand with moving the end zones and the goalposts, but the larger and longer field is a cool aspect to it. I don't know if shortening the field to 100 yards drastically affects the game. I'm not a coach. I'm not a football expert. I am a vibes expert, and the vibes of the CFL, to me, are 110 yards, not 100. So now we come to the more personal side of it. I've seen arguments from both sides. You have the media side, the I hate saying modernizing side, the Americanized side. I don't want to paint any side as like a bad light, that is trying to quote unquote help the CFL embrace the modern game, the way football is played everywhere else, as if that's really what's keeping people from watching the CFL. Now, the CFL has problems. It's not a perfect league. I don't think the problem with the CFL is the product on the field. You can make arguments, and if I'm trying to get in the headspace of these people, let's just say Luke Wilson. He's a very outspoken proponent of these changes and the change that the CFL needs to make fundamentally.
There's like a million things in this league that make it uniquely Canadian. Just because it's different and they're trying to bring new fans in does not make it bad or anti-Canadian.
Maybe we get rid of more kicks, so more touchdown attempts, arguably, with a 100-yard field. Maybe they can march down the field a little bit quicker. Play clocks encourage teams not to dilly-dally and not to take time off the clock. It makes it a little bit harder for them to just sit around until a ref can actually call in the play. Maybe it speeds up pace of play. Maybe we see more exciting offenses. I fully don't understand. I think more issues with the CFL personally come on like an operation standpoint of not letting players and coaches interact as much or as well as you would want in a professional league. Obviously, salaries are an issue, but a league in the CFL's position probably can't do very much about that. And then advertising and the league itself has issues with that. TSN is what it is. It's fine. It's whatever. But the league itself, similar to what I have seen from my other gyms as like what the UFL has, these leagues have advertising and marketing issues. It's not just fully more advertising. It's the fact that some of these leagues, and say what you want about the CFL, as long as it stood, as proud as it is somewhat lacking of an identity. And until you figure out what your identity is, besides not being the NFL, what do you do and what can you embrace? There are things that the CFL has that it can push, but I don't know how any of these changes bring in new fans. On top of that, I feel like you're potentially alienating your most die-hard fan base. Now, I don't know how much the CFL fully loses people coming in based off of these changes, again, you hear a lot of noise online, but how realistic is that? Like, how much of a sample is that of the actual fan base of the league, of these teams? I don't know. If I'm looking on the quote unquote numpty side, the people that are like, no change, hate change, blah, 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 they don't want to see anything change. They want the CFL to stay the same, potentially to a detriment. They don't like any negativity speak on the CFL when there is obviously things that the league can be doing better. I don't think, me personally, CFL Jim, I do not think that these changes make the league a better product. I just don't. I don't see a way. I feel like the games will look different in a way that is not pleasing. I don't think this brings any new eyes to the league whatsoever. And if that's what you're trying to do, major failure. And then I hate the way this was rolled out. The fact that, like, seemingly no one was notified. There are players speaking up about how they don't like these changes and they weren't let known. Coaches speaking up about how they don't like these changes and weren't let known. Now, there's probably a split between Canadian players and American players, whatever. And it's not like they're coming off of the core of Canadian football. 12-man, the waggle is such a big thing in this. If they came after those, everyone would be upset. I would be brandishing my pitchforks. But I'm confused more than anything. I'm confused as to why they think these are good changes, what they do to help the league, and why they're being done behind closed doors. I'm confused, I'm worried, I'm agitated, I'm a little angry at the CFL at the moment. Does that mean I'm not going to watch? No, I love the product, and honestly, in my personal opinion, I'm going to watch as much as possible to get as much as this CFL as I can. And maybe they just big-brained us. Maybe they just did this all elaborately so that they can have, we're not going to do these changes, but now we have everyone talking about the CFL more than the CFL's been talked about in years. And if that's the case, smooth move. Smooth move. I don't know where the CFL goes from here. A lot of these changes are probably coming. And in a few years, the league might be looking a little different. But I'll be watching every single step of the way. Because I'm CFL Jim. This has been my thoughts, feelings. At least everything's out there now, buddy. Love ya. I love this league. Long live